Boys, today we've got a long one, we've got a big one. It's the ultimate 40k army tier list. Why is it the ultimate army tier list? Because everyone's done one, but this one's a little bit different. I'm joined today by my boy, Innis A. Wilson. Go and give him a follow on Twitter. And he did a community poll where he got all you guys to vote and decide which army is the best and which army is the worst. Started from S tier to F tier. I'm not going to mess around. Today's going to be a long video. It's like an hour long. There are chapters which you can find down below if you want to jump to the bit you want to actually know about. Or you can stay for the full thing, which is about an hour and 10 minutes where we talk about every single faction in 40k and tell you why they're good or tell you why they're bad. And we're going to be comparing that to the community poll, which is the community voice. It's everyone voting for which faction they think is the worst or the best. Without further ado, let's go into the ultimate 40k army tier list. Also subscribe, please. Hello, Innis.
Hello, Mikey.
Are you ready to do the world's best tier list ever?
Absolutely, because this will have no community opinions in it whatsoever, which means that
Not
it will
one.
be far more objectively correct.
Tell me about the tiers that you've got included, which are actually from Best in Faction, right? That's where it
So
originated
the
from.
Best in Faction podcast put out a tier list. They did one with Art of War's John Lennon about a week ago now, and the community reaction to it was not the best. To put it diplomatically, the community kind of went, "Oh, this is awful." So I decided that I was going to go out and, well, community can put its money where its mouth is, and we'll see what the community thinks. And the community came back with some interesting opinions. A lot of very close opinions, I'll give them that. And the tiers that are being used is S tier through F tier. So S tier is armies that are, basically they don't have bad matchups, or they're capable of playing into their bad matchups and still having a good game. There's three pack tiers. So there's pack plus, pack, and pack minus, which are basically three variations of the rest of competitive 40k. So pack plus is armies that are sort of getting towards S tier. They have more tools than the general armies do, but they're not like super broken. They maybe have a couple of bad matchups.
Above average.
Yeah, above average. They don't have all the tools they need, but they're still not bad. You're just you might be going into a game with disadvantage where you otherwise wouldn't be, just based on purely the faction you're playing. And then the pack armies are just the baseline that you compare everything to. And then F tier is just armies that are fundamentally lacking in aspects. They just don't have the tools. They're not built well for 9th edition missions, that kind of thing. And that's broadly the difference.
You did a community poll, you got some votes, and you put out a lovely graphic. And no slight on your graphic, but I thought it'd be cool if we did it again and talked about it, but with an official tier maker list at tiermaker.com. It's the only way you can settle an argument is by using the official tier maker.
Oh yeah, this is we're big YouTube money now, guys. We're making tier lists.
Hell yeah.
I give it 3 iterations before Mikey's making videos. These are the 40k players I think I could take in a fight.
It depends how well it does. I mean, the last video that me and you did together, the big one, which was the top 8 worst units in 8th edition, is my most viewed video. So I'm just hoping for, most viewed video again, maybe second most viewed.
Yeah, you're basically that meme where it's the guy looking at the butterfly and it's like, and this is Twitter, and Mikey's, is this content?
That is exactly what I am. So make sure you go and give Innis a follow on Twitter.
At Innis A. Wilson. Yep.
Shall we begin? Are you ready to start?
Let's do this.
So I figured we'd go through, we've got it in like a bit of random order, but I thought we'd do like Space Marines, Imperium, then Chaos, then Xenos, because we know that Space Marines are all going to be S tier and Xenos are going to be F tier. That's just how it is. So shall we start with Blood Angels? Because I've got that one first.
Sure. So for me, Blood Angels are probably one of the better Space Marine factions. I would have put them in pack plus, maybe pack, just depending on the player.
Yeah, I think they're pretty strong. So like they above average, because like Space Marines aren't even like an average army in my opinion. It's like overall most of the chapters are in pack plus or S tier. They're just like, Blood Angels just seem to be able to do everything. They don't do shooting, but they just do everything else. They do have huge ball control, and if you do want to go near them, they just murder you. Yeah,
I think they're probably the 3rd or 4th best Space Marines army. There's a whole separate discussion about whether Space Marines are a baseline army, or actually, if you just played no Codex Space Marines, where would they land? Or no Supplement Space Marines, where do you think they would land? That's a whole separate topic, and I think that actually, because of the way that the game actually plays, where you end up like, you build for the best of the Space Marines armies when you plan for a list. The worse a Space Marine army is compared to the top, the worse the army looks, even though it might be on average a strong army, because everybody's building for, so say Imperial Fists, say like you're building for Blood Angels combat level powers, and you're building for Ultramarine shooting. Whatever the worst version of that is probably worse than the actual book presents, because the meta effect just pushes it down. So you end up looking worse than the army actually should be, because you're building for better versions of it. But yeah, Blood Angels definitely very strong army. They're fast, they hit hard. They don't have to wait quite as long to turn on as some of the other armies. Like, they really don't need to get into the Doctrine. They have a lot of ways to push the Doctrine, especially with the Sanguinary Priest.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a bonus at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, Blood Angels very strong army, and the community was the same.
Just like the cheapest unit.
Yeah, community had them as the has had them as 6th place, I think.
So Raven Guard, again, it's a bit of a random order for Space Marines. So Raven Guard used to be top of the pack. once upon a time.
Best army in the game.
But then since they had like big nerfs to Centurions, and then a lot of the stratagems changed as well, didn't they?
Yeah, a lot of the stratagems changed. They lost the Grav, which was their devastating combat, their devastating ranged output, and then Centurions not being core, and also stuff like the Master Sanctity not being as reliable anymore. A 2+ roll is worse than a 3+ rollable, and Raven Guard really crutched on that if they didn't run on over battle.
Yeah.
And Master Artisans got worse as well. It lost the wound reroll. Eliminators lost their ignore on the sight. Just everything that Raven Guard really crutched on got whacked a little bit, and then the missions just aren't quite as good for them. I have them in pack.
Exactly.
I just don't think they're that great.
Yeah, I'd say they're probably one of the worst.
Yeah, probably one of the worst, but they have potential because the turn 1 output you can get from Raven Guard is still insanely high, and they can still get things like Advanced Charge Centurions, Advanced Charge Aggressors, Advanced Charge Vanguard Veterans. It's just not in pure Raven Guard. I just don't think it's what it used to be.
So Salamanders again, early 9th edition, they were probably top of the pack, if not S tier, because of the fact they were relying. We had obviously like Harrison using Typhoons and Eradicators everywhere. Pretty much everyone was using Eradicators.
And Aggressors had twice as many
thinking about
shots as they did, as they do now.
That is very true, yeah. So Aggressors are obviously really good. Flamer Aggressors get +1 to wound on those. Where do you think the line now?
I probably have them as a pack army as well. Nothing they do excites me anymore. I don't think Eradicators are that good. I don't think attack bikes need the help, and nothing else they do is really all that interesting. I think they're better than Raven Guard if we're ordering within tiers. I don't necessarily think we need to do that.
Sure.
But yeah, I just don't think they don't have what they need. Nothing they do pushes objective play. Their gimmick that they had, which was like the Vulcan Sigil or whatever it's called, where they could get the 6 of Feel No Pain, done by everybody and their dog with the Chief Apothecary. The only real gimmick I think they still have is they can push Blade Guard to 3 damage even through Disgustingly Resilient with the 6s to wound or double damage, which is quite nice for killing things like Death Shrouds. But it's just probably not.
Yeah, compared to other armies, they still have a bunch of really good stratagems, and obviously, again, the Space Marines are still really strong. But against other Space Marines, it just seems to just not quite hit the mark anymore.
It's mostly just they lost fall back and shoot from the Crucible of Battle stratagem, or whatever the old one that you could theoretically fall back and shoot with was. Aggressors lost literally half of their damage output, and attack bikes are good, but Salamanders only do them slightly better than other chapters. And I think attack bikes are good enough baseline that playing Salamanders for the purpose of getting +1 to wound on attack bikes just isn't worth it.
Yeah, for sure. Deathwatch. So I think these are actually really strong. But I think people want to run heavy intercessors and loads of outriders with them. What do you think?
At the moment, I would struggle to put them higher than pack, but the actual army itself is probably pack plus. We've just not found a build that works for them yet, because that book is incredibly deep and has a lot of rules, and the interactions aren't very obvious, and it's very meta dependent on what's powerful. I think you can get away with a lot of stuff like heavy intercessors and heavy intercessor and scepter mixed squads. Obsec Outriders aren't a thing, even if they're not that good. You run like maximum Vanguard, and then you can put Vanguard and bikes, and then you can just drag heavy intercessors with regular Vanguard Marines with Thunderhammers along with you for pretty cheap. And they can also, they're really good. They're just no one's found the build yet, and we don't have enough events going on to really find it. So they're on the borderline between pack and pack plus for me, but I would err on pack plus, because I think once we start seeing that book get solved, it's going to be great.
Still worse than Blood Angels for sure. And even the secondaries as well. Like if any meta Xenos army comes in, they just have a secondary that just kill the army to get points.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to seeing. Could you imagine playing like MSU Dark Eldar or Tau against Deathwatch, and it's just like, oh well, I start 15 points down. Let's see what I can do. And they're still Space Marines, and they still have both the moment.
Yeah, pretty much. Overall, as you say, the army hasn't been figured out yet, but the secondaries still lie up really well. And so yeah, I put them as pack plus, maybe lower pack plus, but yeah, definitely up there.
Yeah, they're probably, if I had to put them somewhere in the pack, they're probably the very bottom of the tier. They're better than Salamanders. They're not much better. Is kind of where I have them.
Imperial Fists. Oh, back in the day.
F tier.
2020. Once upon a time, I used this, and I think I came 30th because they were so good. But then they got that big fat nerf to the Doctrine. With heavy weapons only getting the plus damage if they're strength 7 or more, which Space Marines don't really have that many. They have las cannons and melter guns.
You can get it on your suppressors.
Oh wow, okay.
Suppressors and whirlwinds, mate. That's where you got to go. Yeah, I have them in pack minus. I think it's that meta condensing effect. You build for Imperial Fists by building for every other Space Marine army, and then you beat Imperial Fists because you plan for better versions of everything they do. Their best stratagems like 2 CP plus 1 to wound against vehicles, which Salamanders do for 1 CP against anything. They're just not that good. They're not as resilient as Dark Angels. They're not as fast as anything. They don't hit as hard. They don't shoot as hard. I just don't really see why you would play these guys. Crimson Fist has some nice tools. Pedro Connor has an Obsec Aura, I believe, but it's still not good enough. Just play a different chapter, guys. I'm so sorry. But the community will put them high because of Valrak. So all that stockpiled Lamenters yellow you've got.
He is the undefeated champion because he's only played 1 game. That counts, right? Iron Hands again. Previously S tier. I think they're around pack now.
Yeah, I would put them above Raven Guard. Actually, I would put them below Raven Guard. Yeah. Their gimmick is resilience. Their resilience isn't that high anymore.
Yeah, exactly, because everyone can do it.
Yeah, everyone can do it. They lost their 5+ Overwatch. Their stratagems are all very expensive now, like 2 CP to Overwatch of 1/4s, and then 1 CP 2 Overwatch in the first place.
Sure.
4 up auto deny is just not reliable anymore without being able to CP reroll it.
True.
The only real thing they have still is like you can do a pretty decent Wall of Dreads build with Redemptors, Leviathans, and Relic Contemptors. It's
Sure.
fun. I've played a few games with it. It's pretty strong. It really does struggle on the mission though, and that's kind of all Iron Hands have that differentiates them. So I don't love it. They are fun, but they really suffered from the Forge Roll changes. The Leviathan Dreadnought losing every stat that Iron Hands cared about really sucked for them.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a shame that Ferris, the character tech priest, can't remember his name now. His aura ability always got nerfed to the ground. Ferris, that was it. I do feel like if they got that aura ability back of giving all vehicles a 4+, do you think that would maybe put them too much?
5+, that would be.
Oh yeah, like
4+ was Azrael.
Yeah, an aura ability of 5+ would actually
yeah, they're just missing something. I mean, the Iron Daddy is deservedly on the ground. He was the best character of the game for a long time.
Yeah, exactly.
The actual problem with him is right now he's just not as good as the generic master of the Forge in Iron Hands, because the generic master of the Forge can take better warlord traits than Feros can.
Very true.
And that's kind of just disappointing.
Probably where they should be, really. Maybe the other armies need nerfing.
Probably, yeah, because Iron Hands are still really good.
Yeah, exactly. So Ultramarines, the blue boys, the poster boys. I'd say, again, probably pack, if not pack plus, just because they have a lot of good, really tactical stratagems.
They have a lot of rules with Ultramarines. Yeah. Because when you talk about Ultramarines, you've also got to include, there's like 2 offshoot chapters with extra rules in the Emperor's Spears and the other one.
Yeah, that's true. I don't even know what the Emperor's Spears do.
No, they're like Blood Angels, but they're Ultramarines, I think. They have like a +1 to wound stratagem on the charge. Okay. And they can give chaplains a reroll on litanies, which is quite nice. I have Ultramarines bottom of pack plus, I think. Okay. Just flexibility for me. And Gulliman is very powerful still if you want to run him. They're probably the worst army in pack plus for me, other than maybe Wolves when we get to them. They have so many tools. Calgar is incredible.
Where's better than Deathwatch?
They're not better than Deathwatch. They're better than Deathwatch at the moment, but they're not better than Deathwatch can be once we figure them out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, they just got with Ultramarines. You've got some really good stratagems. Obviously, you've got the Seal of Oath as well, which is obviously a really good relic.
And fall back and shoot.
And then you've just got like
stratagem to fall back and charge.
Special characters.
Tiggy is incredible still. Their psychic discipline's not amazing, but the base discipline's really good now to make up for it. So Tigurius gets the buy on that one because unlike Mephiston and similar, he can actually take from the generic tree. No, I'm a big fan of Ultramarines. They have a lot of tools that for a very savvy player to use.
At the minute, I'm like bouncing with Blood Angels because I really like the combat aspect, and obviously they're really good. But Ultramarines are like my fallback, where I'm like, I just fancy a game with Space Marines where I'm not a knobhead to play against, but they're fun because they've got lots of tricks.
Also, the Overwatch stratagem that allows 3 units to Overwatch in an edition where Overwatch is significantly harder to use is great. Yeah. And that shouldn't be underestimated, how good their objective play is off the back of that.
We'll do White Scars next.
S tier, best army in the game.
Is that because you play White Scars?
No, I have not played White Scars seriously since October 2019, mate. So
I mean, no one has played seriously since October 19, to be fair.
No, we had some events in February. You covered one of them.
But yeah, I think White Scars are really strong. Yeah, just
personally,
crazy at the minute.
Best army in the game. There's nothing that you can say about them other than they have a 50 to 100% damage output in melee for free on turn 3 or turn 1 or turn 2 for 2 CP. In an edition where melee and Vanguard veterans are the best unit in that codex, and then their Inceptors can advance and shoot at no penalty. I don't get. They're missing nothing. There is no tool they don't have. They're not even not resilient anymore because of the apothecary. There is nothing White Scars are lacking other than heroic intervention. That's it. It's the only thing they don't have. They have a double move stratagem for Christ's sake. There's nothing else. Nothing like them in Space Marines.
A lot of people who are playing White Scars are quite worried about Death Guard because their, well, call it chapter tactic is like anti-White Scars because +1 damage does nothing against -1 damage.
It is, but you are also significantly faster than them, which means that you can give them the around on the mission. It's a hard matchup, but it's not a lost matchup, which is why I think they're S tier. Because there's no matchup you go into as White Scars where you can't win.
They're a bit of the anomaly because as you see, we've done all of the first edition supplements and they were all like sitting around pack. Obviously, you got Ultramarines at pack plus. Blood Angels and Deathwatch are new supplements and then pack plus, but then you got White Scars, which are one of the first ones to be released, and they're in S tier, which is quite interesting.
White Scars got a buff in the new book because they gained the no penalty on advance and shooting, whereas most other supplements lost something. And then also like Raven Guard lost a bunch of stuff off of their regular chapter tactic, and their successor traits got nerfed. Iron Hand successor traits got nerfed. They have had a myriad of nerfs. White Scars, the only thing they lost was Master Snares and Aircraft, which was never really a goal.
Yeah, they were a bit of the underdog before. They're still good, but then with the boost that they got in the codex, they just like shot back up.
And Vanguard veterans and Blade Guard veterans, because Vanguard veterans, because before you had to make do with like aggressors and Centurions, now you have the speed of the Vanguard veterans that you just didn't have before. And then Blade Guard veterans are just a very solid for the flat 3 damage. And then the last thing with them is they're hard to play. They are probably the most difficult Space Marine army to play, which is why I think I've said this before, but if your local community White Scars player either doesn't exist because they're a hard army or isn't very good, they don't look like a great army, but that's probably why like the community put them in Pack Plus. The very top of Pack Plus, but in Pack Plus. I think on the broader scene level, they're the best army in the game, but at your local level, it's very, very possible that they look worse than very similar armies like Blood Angels and Space Wolves, because they are so much more difficult to play in that you have to get your positioning right with them.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, so there you go. S tier White Scars. We'll do Black Templars next, so they don't have a real codex. So
No,
I've used the 4th edition cover.
They don't have a real codex, and it's still better than Ultramarines.
I'm about to say, can we add an extra tier midway through? I don't know. So Black Templars.
This tier is 4th edition.
Z tier. Black Templar tier. They seem to
I have them in
like
Pack Plus.
Yeah? Oh.
Yeah, I have them better than
I would put them
Ultramarines.
in Pack, but I just think...
Have you read Devout Push? Devout Push is one of the best stratagems in the game. It is just so for context, it is 1 CP either turn during at the start of the fight phase. Pile in. You don't have to be in combat to do that. So it's a 1 CP 3-inch heroic intervention in your opponent's turn that only has to get within 1 inch. So you can use it 4 inches away. It's 3 inches of free movement. In your turn, you can pile in without being overwatched, or without activating charge bonuses. So you could go into, like, say, Repentia without giving them the +1 attack and the reroll hits. If you activate a Chaplain Litany next to it, it becomes a 6-inch move, and it doesn't stop you doing your regular pile-in if you make it to combat in the first place, which means that you can pile in 6 inches with this, and then activate, and pile in an additional 6 inches when you activate to actually fight. And then you get to consolidate 6 inches as well.
That.
They also have an advance and charge stratagem for infantry.
I just thought of it.
They have a litany for 5 up feel no pain, a litany for +1 attack, and they also have some incredibly good commands.
Added tier above S tier.
They're not better than White Scars. I have them probably above Deathwatch and below Blood Angels. Man, Devout Push really crutches that army up. The one last one I just want to touch on this.
I didn't even consider using it like that.
I love talking about Devout Push. You can disembark from an Impulsor that has moved, advance a squad of Blade Guard out of it, move them 6 inches, plus the 3-inch disembark, plus a D6 advance, +1 to that advance or frontline commander, and then use Devout Push to get them into combat after moving them 14, 17, 23, 23 plus D6 inches to then pile in 3 and fight, or pile in 6 and fight with a Chaplain.
When I was thinking Devout Push, I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be really good for like doing some cool raps and stuff like that. That's cool. I didn't even consider just piling into combat out of nowhere, just like, hello.
Or you use it in your opponent's turn
to
move 6 inches forward and then move your Vanguard veterans 18 inches in charge. Like, it's just 6 inches of free movement every turn for 1 CP. Yours and your opponent's.
That is bonkers. Do you think if or whenever they're going to get an actual supplement rather than a PDF, do you think that'll stay? Do you think they'll just get?
So they printed that stratagem verbatim from the. So it was in Faith and Fury, exactly the same as it is now in the index. So if Devout Push still exists, it'll still exist in the same capacity. It might go away, but I don't predict Black Templars getting a supplement anytime soon, though. So abuse it while you can. It's really fun, and you should definitely do that on the channel to make some people cry, Mikey.
I should, yeah. Blood Ravens as Black Templars when?
Go from all the Psychers to none of the Psychers. That makes total sense.
Exactly. It's just a bit that just got left behind when they were small children. No librarian parents. It's terrible. That's the law. I've done it.
Sad times. Rest in peace to the Blood Templars.
Indeed. Space Wolves boys. So they lost quite a lot in this supplement compared to like what they had in the index. They had like a Wolfguard mortal wound stratagem, which was like super cool. And then they weren't very good before, but they're a little bit better now. I'd put them Pack or Pack Plus, but low Pack Plus personally.
Yeah, I have them either just above or just below Ultramarines here. I would probably put them just above because 3-inch heroic intervention on everything is really powerful. They have really good objective play. I also think at more casual levels of play, they present a lot better than they are. They're probably the best, other than maybe Dark Angels, at like standard levels of play, because they have really good objective control with 3-inch or 6-inch heroic intervention, which just makes them really easy to play. Thunderwolves are really good on the sort of boards that you expect to see at more casual levels with maybe not quite as much like terrain as we see on WTC style boards or LGT style. They're really strong. They hit really hard. You can do successor chapters with them pretty well with like +1 to hit on the charge and exploding 6s, or fall back and charge. Stack that with Savage Fury, you can have double exploding 6s. They have a +1 to wound strategy for Vanguard veterans, or if you run them as Wolfguard. A lot of tools. They're special characters, and they probably have the best psychic powers other than Dark Angels of any Space Marine chapter. You can get like 1+ save in the open and -1 to hit Vanguard veterans and Thunderwolves, which is just it's a lot. It's a lot for armies to deal with. So big fan.
A good toolbox army now.
Yeah, exactly. And you see that in the middle. The 2 armies in the middle, or the 4 armies in like the middle slot there, so Deathwatch through Salamanders, are very toolboxy. The top 3 are combat heavy with shenanigans, which is great in 9th edition, and then the bottom 3 are gunsy armies that don't really do much now. They're pretty clear where the lines are being drawn here.
Yeah, that's a good analysis. So then, final one, Dark Angels
are here
to
break all the rules. Yep.
Yeah. So at the time of filming, I mean, they are the latest 40k codex that's out. They've also not received any sort of FAQ or erratas as of yet, but just what I thought with the index that came out that said like all Terminators are transhuman all the time, they kept that, which was very surprising, and that just made sure they
made it better,
in my opinion. Well, yeah, exactly.
Because they gave it to Blade Guard and all the characters too, whereas before it was just the Terminators. And then they gave the Terminators OBSEC and the best secondary in the game.
So for anyone, for context again, basically anything within a circle, if it's infantry, you can't wound it better than a 4+. Now, any Space Marine has a successor tactic that is like, you can't wound them on better a 1 or a 2, but you don't really wound Space Marines very much on 2s. You do wound them on 3s and a lot of the time. So that just pumps them straight up to like, the survivability rate is just humongous compared to what it should be.
Yeah, and then you give them objective secured on top of that without needing Rights of War, and you just have unparalleled objective control. It's to the point where you don't need to run Deathwing Knights now, because the difference in survivability and damage output between Deathwing Knights and the regular ones that gain OBSEC on top of that is just ridiculous. Like, you gain some slightly better damage output in exchange for like 50 points and OBSEC. You may as well just do that.
Yeah.
It's hilarious how obsolete Deathwing Knights became overnight with the Dark Angel Super Doctrine giving them reroll wounds in combat now. It's hilarious. That book is mental.
Yeah, exactly.
I slightly struggle with putting it in S tier because it's still new and we've not seen results from it yet, and it might turn out that you just can't fit everything you want to into a list. But in lieu of that, I think I need to see it not work before I'm comfortable putting them below S tier, rather than needing to see it work to put them in S tier, because the baseline they're working from is so powerful.
Yeah, exactly. Because the thing is, if you just drop like 30 Deathwing list, it's just like, if you drop that in front of anyone's going to be quite worried about playing against it. It's just a horrific army.
And then you add in like the psychic powers they have, and good luck.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
like you clutching on Aurora, too bad, it's gone. Yep, -1 attack, -1 to hit, fight last on command, reroll hits and wounds in combat. You've got Azrael giving like regular Terminators with just like Stormbolt or Power Fist, get a 4 involuntate shooting. You have Talamasters who can be untargetable next to Deathwing command squads, so you can't even like snipe them out. They have a lot of tools. I still think they get run around by White Scars though, which is hilarious. Because you got all that, and then White Scars are like, I reroll wounds, mate, it's fine.
We got that too. Yeah, so they might get an FAQ, but as I said, we're filming on the 2nd of March. At this point, they don't have anything. So it's quite an obnoxious book right now. So I played against it.
I'm not sure what you would FAQ to make it weaker.
I don't know. I have no idea. Unless they just went, everything in Dark Angels gets plus 10 points per model. I have no idea.
Inner Circle is 1s and 2s failed to wound. Let's do it. Come on, Games Workshop. Don't be cowards.
Yeah, exactly. I think that'd be like, as I said, because there's a successor chapter for that, and it's like, it doesn't get seen. And it's all right. You know what I mean? It's not. You wouldn't take it in a competitive setting, but it's a nice.
Hey, exorcists have to take it.
Yeah, but that's it. So if they got that in addition, that'd be like, okay, cool. I'm only winning them on 3s, but there's so much that wins Space Marines on 3s and hardly anything that wins them on 2s. You know,
yeah, the difference between a Disintegrator winning you on, or a Heavy Bolter or a Disintegrator winning you on 3s versus winning you on 4s is that level of output that they have. Because it's really easy to win Marines in 3s on bulk. It's really hard to win them on 4s on bulk at AP they care about.
Yeah, for sure. So there you go. So I think that's all the Space Marine chapters, barring Grey Knights, but they don't really count.
So Mikey, you can screenshot that. That's the entire competitive meta. Nothing else matters.
The competitive meta, yeah, exactly.
That's two for one. You get 2 videos in one here, guys. So we talked about the game. Now we're going to go talk about everything else, okay?
So again, if you did want just a Space Marine tier list, that's what we put it as. Okay then, so let's move on to Imperium. So again, all the models that Games Workshop don't care about, this is where we come in. And we'll start with Imperial Soup, because that's a nice start with it. So Imperial Soup, once upon a time winning the Las Vegas Open in 2019.
And
where would you say this?
What? Like a week ago.
And an Open, this is very true, because obviously tank with Custodians and Sisters. I was about to say, what does Imperial Soup even look like these days? Because that's the only reference I've got now is tanks list.
So basically, you see the other 11 armies on here, yeah? Okay, so you take one of those and you add Retributors. And that's Imperial Soup nowadays.
Hell yeah.
So yeah, I have Imperial Soup at the top of Pack Plus.
Okay.
I think they slightly lose some tools in comparison to what you can take if you're just taking up your faction, because you lose like Doctrines and Super Doctrines or Sacred Rites, and nothing from the Imperial Codex just quite makes up for that, I don't think. But yeah, there's certainly nothing wrong with playing Imperial Soup. I think they're one of the best. I think it slightly struggles to S tier because it's just lacking the tools that you get from running a pure army nowadays. But it's great, and you'll see why when we start talking about like the best of other armies.
Yeah, I was about to say this will probably end up dropping down to F tier as more and more armies get really good benefits from being pure. Because as we've seen with every codex so far, it's that if you are pure this, then you get a really good benefit for doing that.
Yeah, that happened in Sigmar a while ago, didn't it? Like Mixed Order was amazing until all the armies started getting actual rules, and then it just dropped off. I think we'll have to wait and see on that, because it might still just turn out that taking the best resilient stuff from Custodes plus Retributors or Repentia or whatever is still incredible.
Yeah, true.
So until we see it happen, I'm not comfortable to say they're going to drop off, because 40k is just such a game where just taking the best of the best for its tools, because things are so hyper specialized within armies nowadays, will probably still be fine. Sure. It might fall to like pack, but I don't think it'll get worse than that, just because you have like 1,500 data sheets to draw from. So
Admech, they're quite an interesting army.
don't show your feelings there, Mikey.
They're quite interesting. I don't know where to put them when we're talking about them. Should I just put me in F tier? I should have base what talking tier.
Yeah, so we're going to screenshot this one and put it on so that you can get flamed by all the AdMech player.
So AdMech are really good because they've got quite a well, they had that big update, didn't they, with like the Psychic Awakening, where they got a whole bunch of new units, which were all really good, like all the
And
dogs
some of the
stuff
best
like
warlord
that.
traits in the game. Yep.
Yeah, and obviously they got the warlord trait with the extra hit on 6s and +1 strength to heavy weapons and stuff like that.
Yep. From Mars,
When
or
they pretty
the
much rely on
more slightly more useful one, I think, which is the extra AP within half range and fall back and shoot.
True, very true.
Yeah.
So where would you put them?
So for me personally, I have to make a slight line here in the sand here, where if you're talking like the formats that I normally play, which is team events, they're S tier.
Mhm.
For singles play, I have them sort of mid pack plus,
Okay.
because in team play you just avoid their bad matchups. In singles play, sometimes that just doesn't happen, and they'll go second in a game they can't win. But AdMech have cripplingly powerful firepower, incredibly powerful scoring options. Iron Striders with las or autocannons have an insane amount of firepower.
Yeah,
The
for
planes are incredible. They can turn off auras. I've never seen a White Scars player look less happy than when their Feel No Pain aura got turned off as they got shot by an AdMech army. They just they have so many options. It's just that slight factor of you'll go second against another army that shoots and you won't win that shootout, and that keeps them from S plus in singles play for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have them about where you've got them, like
Yeah.
plus or minus a book. It's fine. They're roughly where they should be for me. What about you? What have you seen? Like, have you seen
Yeah,
much
exactly.
from AdMech or?
Not for a while. Like you had the essentially the transport spam with all the electro priests, which I think you played against last year.
I played
at
against
the
that first
SummerSlam-
round.
Not
at
the SummerSlam.
Northeast Open. Yep.
Yeah, which I think was at the time was a really cool list. Obviously, a long time ago, the DACA
That was
bots
pre-engine
were
war.
just yeah, exactly, and that was still doing well. The DACA bots are really good, but they're just too expensive for 9th edition. But then they just
And
have
the
so many other
general
tools now.
boards we play on now are not good for them either.
Yeah, exactly. Because you have so many L's. Which
A
is
slight
what
issue
one
with
side
DACA bots is the rules for firing in engagement range allow models in engagement range to shoot, not units. So if you tag one
Interesting.
model in a Castle and Robot squad and they've locked down,
Only one
only
can
that
shoot.
one can shoot you. The rest can't. So you can just kind of stay in combat with them. You're taking 18 strength 6 shots. Not much that you're putting in combat nowadays really balks at that, especially at -1 to hit.
Okay, sure.
So I just find that they don't
Yeah.
quite have what they're needing. You either don't lock them down and you move them around, and they don't have enough firepower to be worth it. Yeah, but AdMech are great. They really are. But sometimes they will just have games they go second and can't win, and that keeps them from S plus for me in singles play.
Yeah,
But they're
sure.
probably the best firepower army in the game.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, if you're playing on Planet Bowling Ball, then they're just like they win every time.
Yeah, they're just
They
good
just
tag.
outshoot you. Okay, so Astra Militarum. I'm going to put it in F tier for now while we chat about it. I don't even know where these are at the minute. I've no idea.
So the best in faction guys put them in pack plus, I think.
Okay.
And the community put them in pack minus, actually. The community does not really rate Astra Militarum right now. For me, I split the difference. I would put them in the pack. I think they have, in a pure army specifically, they have some great tools for damage output, but they don't really survive getting to run around by a bunch of those top armies. And the shooting sometimes goes second, and that just doesn't work in a lot of games.
Yeah, for sure.
They have some of the best scoring in the game with Move Guardsmen. They have Death Riders, which are insanely resilient for the points. Those are, for reference, a 15-point model with 3 wounds, a 4 up armor save, and a 5 up Feel No Pain, which can receive orders from the Death Company
Yeah,
commanders
it's crazy.
or the Death Company commanders to move, or fight twice in combat. So you could have like 20-inch movement, 20-inch movement, 15-point models with the resilience of like trying to put it in context. The resilience of a Nurgling, basically. They're not half bad.
Yeah, that's a good example. I think that's probably. But other than that, they don't have any other standout units. So they don't have any standout
it's
units.
just
They just have standout
Bulgrin-
board control.
Bulgrin haven't held up. Matnicores are great. Tank commanders are great. I just don't think it's quite enough to get them over the line for me into pack plus, where they are like a standout, because you also just don't really see guard pure, which also helps because their best tools are like allying them with, say, Repentia or Custodes, just to get the most out of their scoring, and also have those anvil units that guard just don't have, and to like punish people from running at you.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. Imperial Suit with guard is probably the best build of it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just fills the holes that guard just don't have at the minute. They swarm the board and they need something else just to do the rest of the work.
Yeah, it's just fill guards.
So would you say the bottom of pack? I don't know.
No, I'd have them above everything in this pack. Though, they're like the top
of the pack so far.
I think they have more tools than Salamanders to win games at the moment, because they're doing it on a different axis to Salamanders are, whereas Salamanders have everything above them that you're planning for. Guard are at least doing something different.
Okay, Custodes. So whilst they've got a 3+ invuln, I'd say they're pack plus. If they ever lose that, then they might drop down. But they're just so resilient, and they have so many tricksy stratagems like turn off rerolls and stuff like that, you know. And then they can, if they've got Trajan, they've got like essentially a free stratagem in the back pocket whenever they like.
Yeah, they just start with 3 CP more than you think they do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep, I have them probably just above Deathwatch. And Deathwatch potentially could go higher. Deathwatch are still obviously an unknown quantity. Custodes, yeah, they have a lot of tools. We've been experimenting with some fun things with the Castellan's Mark, which is a relic where you can pick a unit that's within 6 of the character that has it and redeploy it and the character. So we've been doing with the new points Virtus Praetors. So 2 5-man bricks, one deployed aggressively, one deployed defensively, character in the middle of them. And then depending whether you go first or second, you just redeploy the squad that's either aggressively or defensively, and you get a really powerful turn 1 alpha, or you take no penalty for deploying aggressively with them. And we've been experimenting with that. Obviously, that's going in Imperial Soup, but there's no reason you couldn't do that in Pure. Alaris are really good. They interact really well with the new What We Time We Fight changes with Unleash the Lions, allowing them to make their squad 5 individual squads that all have to die. They're just really good at What We Time We Fight in general. Telemons are very resilient, even in a meta where people are building for things like Mortarion.
Telemons basically stayed the same, didn't they, as well, in the index?
Shadowkeepers, Telemons laugh at Eradicators and the like. They just don't really care about them because you're -1 to hit. You make them functionally strength 7 into you, and then you're like hitting you on 4s, wounding you on 5s, with just not enough volume. I really like Custodes right now. I think they're well positioned. I just think they're slightly too high model count to really play the missions to the full extent. Like you put them on like a mission like Vital Intelligence, where you've got to spread across 5-4 objectives in the midboard and one in your deployment zone. I just don't think they have the tools to do that comfortably without exposing themselves to their elite model count just getting rinsed by things that are planning for Dark Angels and similar.
Really cool. And just really strong, just really resilient, and you need that.
But don't worry, guys. Pack minus and F tier will fill out as we get to the rest of the armies in not Imperium.
Can you imagine? Everyone is Pack Plus.
At that point, you just have to shift the tier list, right?
We're basically just going through the way that Games Workshop intend you to buy stuff. So these are the ones that they care about, and then all the rest of the crap they don't care about ends up in this one.
All the ones at the bottom only have one special character. All the ones at the top have more.
Speaking of special characters, what about Grey Knights? So again, previously S tier, in 9th edition, a little bit different.
This is another fun one for me because a lot of their stuff is really, really powerful, but nobody really knows about it. We saw Eric Bathurst's list at the Las Vegas Open, which was abusing the Purifiers interactions, which for people who don't know, they have a 1 CP stratagem when targeted to gain a 4 vulnerable save. Sanctuary gives them +1 to that, and then to cap of 3+. And then Warding Scales gives them +1 to involve in combat, but it's not +1 to the save, it's +1 to the saving throw, which means that it's a functional 2 vulnerable save in combat.
Sure.
Which is not something that a lot of people have. That's Shadow Fields and Shining Spears, and that's kind of it. They also have the Psychic Power, which allows you to re-embark in a transport after firing in the psychic phase. So you can have stuff like Purifiers, disembark from a transport, smite 3-inch d6 damage, shoot their 40 Stormbolt shots at strength 6 -1 damage 2, and then re-embark in a Rhino where they can't be targeted again and do it again next turn. It's just, well, for one thing, both of those things are currently illegal in WTC format, so I can't do those. So that's why I'm not playing Grey Knights myself, otherwise I absolutely would be. Their biggest problem...
2 + in 1 shouldn't be allowed, have they?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, they've left on Shining Spears, but... so yeah, I really like Grey Knights. I think they're really well positioned if you're playing in a format that allows that. Paladins are still great. Their troops are still fragile, but they have a lot of damage output, and that kind of makes up for it. And they're not that expensive anymore. It's like 20 points a model for a Strike Marine compared to 18 for a Tactical that you still wouldn't take. It's horrible. It really is. Sure. They're waiting on the Wound update, so I'd probably put them in Pack unless you're a really good player, in which case they probably push to Pack Plus, because you really have to get the most out of them. I'd have them probably just below Salamanders, but if you're a really good player, I'd probably have them just below Custodes. But yeah, I think for the general population, again, Pack is probably about right. As much as I want to put them higher.
So yeah, I agree.
Also had them in Pack. Yeah, they're crutching on broken interactions at the moment is the biggest problem.
Yeah. The Psychic Awakening supplement added a lot, but they're still banking on like Sanctuary and stuff like that with like the plus to rolls rather than plus to save, which is just broken in the way the wording works compared to everything else in the game now.
Well, this army being good is not good in a way that Games Workshop has ever intended an army to be good. It's broken in the same way that like. Not in the same power level, but in the same way that 8th edition Iron Hands was broken, in that it's interactions that just shouldn't work the way they do, but they do because of the precise letter of the wording. So I think, keep them lower so Games Workshop don't nerf it and we can keep playing with it for longer, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think they're the oldest codex now.
Yes,
obviously Space Marines, Death Guard were the first. So they're now they're the oldest wording.
And then it was the Grey Knights and Chaos Space Marines in the second release, and Chaos Space Marines had a 2.0 codex just before Marines got theirs.
They were vastly different.
I believe it's Grey Knights and AdMech are now the 2 oldest codexes.
Yeah, I think
and it really shows. AdMech's codex is terrible.
So the second to final one, we have Imperial Knights. Obviously, I don't want to insult Jay when I talk about Imperial Knights because he loves them and he only plays Imperial Knights. But I think I'm going to put them in F tier and leave them there because they just can't play the mission. If you don't prepare for Imperial Knights, you lose.
Disagreement here.
Okay, but I just think that if you played Soup, then you can obviously play the mission, but Imperial Knights just don't have the models to play a 6-objective mission.
All right, I'm smiling very big right now. Have you played against the Knight Megara yet? One of the 4-drop ones?
Probably not.
Okay,
I don't think so.
The Knight Megara is 480 points. It is 8 strength 7 -2 3 damage shots with exploding 6s. but it tests exploding sixes, so two extra hits on sixes. It is strength 8 minus 2, flat 3 in combat with its version of the sweep attack. So 12 attacks at strength 8 minus 2, flat 3. It also has a 2 damage poison 2 plus flamer with no AP and flat 3 damage, as well as shooting, which Imperial Knights can rotate Iron Shields to have a BF4 up in combat. Knight Armigers are now 135 points for the standard version, which means that you can run, to my quick math, 3 Megaeras and 2 Megaeras and 8 Armigers at 2,000 points. And that wins missions.
That's not too bad.
I have them in pack. War actually had them in pack plus, or in pack as well, because just the Megara is so powerful, especially with things like the relics that you can give it. Give it things like +1 attack from Seneschal, so it's now 15 attacks with reroll hits in combat from Krast. The Volkite gun is just incredible. It averages like 9 hits from 8 shots. Or I think it's exactly 8 hits, and then you add on reroll 1s from First Knight, and then it goes above that. It averages like 10 hits at flat 3 damage. It's just very well positioned in the meta. There's also the 14 Armiger list, which is surprisingly good at scoring. With 9 Warglaives and 5 Valkyries.
Yeah, the 14 Army is probably the anomaly in that list.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have them in pack. I think they're pretty solid.
No one seems to want to run it.
Yeah, it's very much a TDS thing at the moment, I think.
Would you say better
than
Grey Knights? Probably easy.
Yeah, probably easier to play than Grey Knights. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, something like that. Because Grey Knights have higher upside if you're a good player.
So I have not played against the Megara because no one owns one.
Yeah, exactly. They've been out of stock for like 6 years. Megaeras and Warglaives, guys. If you want to play Imperial Knights, go and do that. The same holds for Chaos Knights when we get to them, but Chaos Knights are slightly worse, and I'll get into that when we talk about them. Okay, next up, we have the last Imperial faction, other than Inquisition and Assassins, which are not real armies.
Sisters of Battle? No, they're adult. They sit in Imperial seats, I guess.
I'm assuming you have opinions on Sisters as well. You can keep.
Having played against them relatively recently,
keep going up.
You reckon up here?
You can stop there. Yeah.
Can we again? We put it on the logo. That works. I'd argue Pack Plus or S tier for sure. Like 100%.
I think Sisters
they're just like super good. They have
the 2 best units in the game in Repentia and Rescuers.
With Sisters, exactly. And they're one of those armies that if you don't know what they do, they will just catch you out and win the game if you've never played against them before. Retributors obviously insanely good at shooting, and then Repentia are just insanely good at just obliterating anything they touch. They obviously die in droves. But if you play it properly, then they should never die, basically. They'll just always kill what they need to kill and be hidden away where they won't die.
150 points for delete anything, right? There's no downside to that.
Exactly. Like any unit in the game.
Yeah, it's set Mortarion, they'll kill it. It's pretty much how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. That's exactly what I was going to say. There's like 1 or 2 units in the game, like Mortarion, that Repentia just won't walk through, and it's 150 points.
The invulnerable one exchange is another thing, but that's like a super fringe case. No, I think Sisters, the biggest thing with Sisters is, as the player playing against them, you have to account for everything going right for them, because if they want it to, it does. So if you have a model that's on...
Yeah, for sure.
You say you have like a 6-wound model or a 9-wound model, they get 1 melter shot getting through kills it. So you have to guarantee, you can't afford to take 9 damage from melter shot, which means you have to sync, if you don't want to die, you've got to sync defensive strats, you've got to sync CP rerolls, you've got to position it so that it can never get shot by Retributors. And then the Sisters player either doesn't have to spend those resources that you've now had to account for, or just does it anyway and makes you spend the resources. There's no downside to Sisters for going for a 12-inch charge.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they can just get
weird.
it. It's very different to play against. I think they're still...
Anything you think about, like, mathematically.
Yeah. It happens for Sisters. If you are 18 inches away, if you are a 6-inch move, a 6-inch advance, and a 12-inch charge away from Sisters, they can do that turn 1 if they're Evangelis, or if they roll enough 6s. So you have to plan for that, because you can't. You have to deploy it about its maximum range if you don't want to get charged, or they can just do it, and that's it's ridiculously difficult to play against. I don't think they're the best army in the game because their scoring options are pretty poor. But the zone control they get from Repentia makes up for that a little bit. But armies like White Scars and Dark Angels just have the tools, but they have no bad matchups.
Yeah.
Everything that, other than maybe like a couple of Necron builds, but that's a fringe as well. I just don't think Sisters really struggle with much that it's enough to justify them definitely being one of the best armies in the game. And they won the Nopen in Super Custos.
I said, when you're trying to play against them.
And the Nopen was the most important thing to happen, like ever. So
ever in the past, got like 12 months.
Pretty much, yeah.
Anything that you try and plan against, anything average, you just can't. It just throws it out the window. You have to just go, what is their maximum threat? And it's like, they can do that pretty much whenever they like. They can't do it every time, but they can do it when they need to.
It depends how late in the game it is, right? Turn 4, turn 5, if they've got like 20 Miracle Dice from the Triumph, they absolutely can do it with 2 units. That's the problem. Is the later the game goes, the more tools the Sisters have to just do ridiculous things. And the late games where stuff like that really matters the most. That's where getting that 1 extra hit on Overwatch from a melter gun really matters.
Yeah. The only thing they don't have is resilience.
Yeah, exactly. That's why they're not the best army in the game, is because they are still made of wet paper and mortal wounds are ridiculously good into them.
Okay, so that's all the Imperium. So let's move on to Chaos, and we're probably down to less
slam
than
it all in
half,
F
which is
here,
quite
right?
funny. Yeah, it's Chaos Soup. So this is Smash Bros. If you wanted to run that, taking like things like the Impossible Lord of Change in other armies and stuff like that. Again, it's hard to think about. Like a year ago, you could just be like, "What's Chaos Soup?" You're like, "Oh, it's this, and this," and now it's just like, "What the fuck are people bringing on TTS these days?"
So there's a few different variations of this. The version that we're playing is for Team Scotland is Magnus, Mortarion, 3 Keepers of Secrets, 30 Demonettes, and 15 Furies. And that list is insanely powerful, and I absolutely love it. You've also got lists like Decimators mixed with things with Soulburner Petards. So Soulburner Petards are 2d3 shots, ballistic skill 3, every 2+ to wound is a mortal wound instead of regular damage. Each guy gets 2 of those for 180 points, I want to say. And you run 3 of those with like Master Possessions, for reroll ones to hit and wound, disco load for +1, and they just like deploy mortal wounds at 24 inch range until things are gone. You have things like Emperor's Children Terminators, like what Matt Morrisoli was running in the States, or in Australia, sorry. You have 60 Possessed with Celeste for advanced charge. There's a lot of tools in Chaos Soup, and I actually have them the very bottom of S tier, for me, personally. They're just the tools they have. Yeah.
Okay.
The tools they have are just so powerful. And that was why I laughed.
They just have so many options. They're very similar to Imperial Soup in that way.
Yeah, the community put them at the bottom of Pack Plus. Which I'm like, oh, you guys haven't played against much Chaos Soup, have you? Mortarion is at his best in soup lists. I don't think Death Guard Pure benefits much from Mortarion, but Chaos Soup. Did you know that giving like Keepers of Secrets that are -1 to hit in combat, also no rerolls against them, is good? I never would have guessed that.
You'd have thought.
You ever watched Repentia try to kill anything in -1 to hit in -1 to wound aura? What about Shalaxi Hellbane, who is also -1 to wound, so that you pop the +1 to wound strategy and you're still wounding her on 5s. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, for sure.
Chaos Soup is incredibly powerful.
We can move on to Death Guard's team, but I think Mortarion just carries Death Guard into what tier they're going to be in. Without him, they're just an okay army.
Oh, if we disagree on that as well, cool. I like this disagreement.
A good. Okay. Well, that's the point, you know.
Exactly.
We're supposed to be like not just agree with each other all the time. So we're going to Death Guard now, since we brought it up. So I will say that Mortarion carries Death Guard to probably top of Pack Plus, if not S tier. Without Mortarion, they sit in Pack Plus quite comfortably in the middle or bottom.
Yeah, I have them just below Imperial Soup. I don't think they're an S tier army. The community had them in S tier. I think that's just New Book syndrome.
Yeah,
they
everyone's getting Mortarion.
have positive matchups, which is nice into White Scars and Death Guard, but they're not great into Chaos Soup, and they're not great into Sisters, and then there's a bunch of other stuff that's just not great for them. Admech, for example. I don't think Mortarion is the best build of Death Guard Pure at all. I think actually with Mortarion, they're sort of bottom of Pack Plus. I think Mortarion just makes... Yeah, the problem with Mortarion, specifically, is that he has a resilience profile in that army that nothing else in that army shares, which means that all people do is they sink their anti-tank into Mortarion. Whereas if you're sinking anti-tank into Terminators, it doesn't matter. It functionally, it's just any other damage shot. By putting Mortarion in the list, you're saying anti-tank goes at them, anti-infantry goes to the Death Guard. And you give everybody clear targets. Whereas the Terminators sit in that really nice spot where everything's bad against them, so it doesn't matter. And then you can like hide Plagueburst Crawlers, and that's all that really matters. I think Death Guard Pure, without Mortarion, top of Pack Plus-ish. With Mortarion, you're just saying that everybody's plan to kill Mortarion gets to kill Mortarion turn 1, and now you're playing with 1,500 points of Death Guard.
Yeah. What would your non-Mortarion Death Guard look?
So I'm playing single patrol with Lord of all Mortarion's Anvil for the Heroic Intervention strategy and the no rerolls thing. So it's Lord of Contagion with the no rerolls aura, 3 20s or 20, 19, 19 of Poxwalkers, 5 5 3 of Death Shrouds, 2 Fetid Bolt Drones, 2 Plagueburst Crawlers, Foul Blight Spawn, Plague Surgeon, Biologist Putrefier, and Tallyman, and then there's like some Warlords and stuff spread in there. And the reason that you get to do it without Mortarion is that Mortarion hogs all of your stuff, because you want to put the no rerolls on him, or you want to put the no movement on him. Because without the no rerolls, he's not actually that resilient against combat armies. He holds Arch Contaminator, which means that you don't get to have like rerolls to wound in combat, which means that your matchup against like Dark Angels is just significantly worse, because either you hold Mortarion with the rest of your army, or you send him off on his own thing, and either way he just doesn't do anything. I think that the tools you get by just spending that 500 points on 10 more Death Shroud Terminators is better.
Yeah, Death Shroud are really, really good, I think.
Yeah,
like,
Death Shroud are the best unit in that book.
Probably most people like overlook them because of Mortarion.
The best unit in that book by not a small margin. I think they're actually one of the best units in the game, and Mortarion is like somewhere in the top 50.
You've really pissed off a lot of people by saying that, you know.
But I mean, but think about all the armies in the top.
In the game.
Everyone knows that. None of the armies in the top struggle with Mortarion. Like, you charge Mortarion into Custodes and he bounces. You charge Mortarion into Blade Guard Terminator, he bounces. You charge him into Death Guard, into Deathwing, and he bounces. He gets shot by one squad assist of battle and he dies. Sure, he's good into Chaos Soup armies. Like, that's it. That's all he's got for the top, like, 10 armies in the game. Is he doesn't kill anything with invulnerable saves. In Pure, and that's what you need him for in Pure. In Soup armies, you have other stuff to deal with that. In Pure, he's the thing that deals with that because he's the only thing fast enough to get to it. So just spend the 500 points elsewhere, Death Guard players. Don't waste your time on Mortarion. It's just me making hot takes about armies that people are not going to agree with, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I should title the video as that. And he's disagreeing with everyone ever.
That's the goal, right? Anything without an invulnerable save, Mortarion
really
murders. And then the entire game right now is invulnerable saves.
Yeah, the things at the top is invuns, you know, it's resilience, and then he doesn't quite hit hard enough to deal with it.
Yeah, I mean, just like,
and then the rest of the army.
The first army I can look at that he's good against in S tier and Pack Plus is maybe Chaos Soup if you're playing Monster Mash build, because he's fine into that, and Ultramarines, and maybe Death Watch. and that's it. There's nothing else at the top he's good against. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to run around killing 5 Prime Arrows from turn.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that's Death Guard. So Chaos Demons now. I think if you split this up into gods, you'd get a very different result for all of them. But like,
Khorne,
Demonettes and Keeper of Secrets are really
Khorne,
good.
Tzeentch, and Nurgle are all F tier Impure, and then Slaanesh are Pack Plus Impure, and then as an army they're probably Pack Plus. Probably like toying the edge of S tier, but they're just better as a sub army, so there's no real reason. It's the reason with that you run the best 1,000 points of demons and then 1,000 points of another army, and it's better than the second best 1,000 points of demons is probably the issue with them for me.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I have them probably below Blood Angels and Black Templars.
Yeah, so like obviously
anywhere
the
in that mid
Slaanesh side just getting a huge buff recently.
Yeah, Keepers of Secrets are nasty units.
They're so good when they're exalted. So good. Yeah. They're obviously already quite good, but then they just get free buffs. It's just insane.
The problem with them is Demonettes are just kind of bad at everything except holding objectives. So in Pure, you get like, you run like three Keepers and Shalaxi and then Fiends, and the Fiends are okay but not great. And that's the issue with them, is that once you put the 4 characters in, the next 1,000 points just isn't that good. It's not amazing scoring. It's not amazing damage output. It's good at stopping things falling back. There's just not quite enough there that you're better substituting it in with something else that keeps them from being a really, really top tier army.
Yeah, you just relying on the Keepers to do all the heavy lifting, and then the rest of it.
And so many armies can kill Keepers.
Hopefully everything's dead, so they're not bothering them.
It's like Sisters of Battle. Any army that's got like Melta shooting to deal with Mortarion deals with Keepers too, just by proxy. And Inceptors and things like that are also really good into them. Yeah, that's the biggest issue for me.
I guess the other notable units you've got in there really is the Possible Robe, Lord of Change.
Yeah,
I think everything else you pretty much just like sniff over now.
And he slightly suffers from.
Used to be really good, but now they're just.
His problem is All My Friends Are Dead syndrome, where he's standing around T-posing on an objective and everything else in the army dies, because you can't take a Primarch with him anymore without spending a bunch of CP on it, because he really needs that Warlord trait. Or you take him and you support him, but you could just run better stuff than him. He's great. I love him.
Exactly.
It's just the things you support him with are not amazing anymore. He was better at the start of the edition before the proliferation of everything being good at killing him now.
Yeah,
like the Melta change,
as
especially.
You've already mentioned Khorne F tier.
Yeah, Khorne F tier, Nurgle pure F tier, Tzeentch pure F tier. We're basically rating on. Slaanesh is Pack Plus, everything else is F tier, but we'll put them in Pack Plus because it's the best of the book.
The Keeper of Secrets is carrying everything in that book, and there's so many data sheets in there.
It's them and like Screamers.
And it's funny, the Keeper of Secrets aren't even in this book.
They're in Engine War.
That's got the old profile.
Did you guys know Engine War was a really broken book? Because if you look, everything in Engine War is carrying those 2 armies.
Yeah. There you go. You heard it here first. Engine War is broken. So Chaos Knights, worst sibling of Imperial Knights, because they
not
just don't
worse,
have the relics
just
or the
different.
That Knights do. Yeah, that's what they all say.
Yeah, so they're in Pack Minus. They're better than Imperial Fist. They'll get them above that terrible book.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Basically take everything I said about Imperial Knights and then apply it to Chaos Knights, except for the one small issue of the Imperial Knight Warlord trait and relic buying stratagems just specify Questoris class, and unfortunately the Chaos Knight ones specify the specific ones in the book, which means you can't buy Warlord traits and relics for Chaos Megaeras. You can only get the one, so you can't have 2 or 3 buffed ones.
Okay.
And because that's the way that you play this book good, it's just worse on actors. They have better allies, they have worse pure. So yeah, they just land in Pack Minus just because they're the things that are good in Chaos Knights right now are just better done by Imperial, just because of the way that the Megaeras are worded. That's basically the difference maker. Because a single Chaos Knight Megaera is insane. You can have one with 18 attacks that reroll hits in combat that hit on they're hit on 3s at -3, flat 3 damage, ignoring invulnerable saves. Like, you can do that. That's just a thing you can do with a Megaera. You can do that with one.
That's really good.
And then your second one's terrible because it doesn't really get any buffs.
If you could do it with 2.
Yeah. And then the last thing is the Chaos Knights rotate Iron Shield stratagem.
Brother right now.
Yeah, the Chaos Knights rotate Iron Shield stratagem is shooting only, not shooting and combat.
Yeah.
So that's the last biggest
issue.
I guess. Yeah. Is they are just missing some tools for the specific things that are good now in Knights. So yeah, Pack Minus. They're still a fine army. You can still win games with them. They're just not. They're better in Soup, and they're not as good as they're because you can't justify running just one Megaera really, and that's it. That's all the only real difference is. So yeah, that's where I had them. They're still better than feckin' Imperial Fists.
Yeah, they can spike sometimes, which kind of like keeps them above.
Yeah, even things like 10 attacks from Armigers in combat isn't half bad, because they can get 10 attacks with a sweet profile.
Yeah, exactly.
At neg 3 as well, which is really big when you're punching stuff like Space Marines. You get them down to that 6-up save instead of a 5-up save. You're halving the efficiency. They're good. They're just not. They're not strong.
Okay. The second to final Chaos Space Marines.
I mean, they may as well
Chaos
be
Space Marines. I mean, they just struggle. They got hit hard with that 2.0 codex that literally did nothing. Just reworded it and then forgot to include half the new rules. And they're just suffering with old codex syndrome, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They've got some good stratagems with like Emperor's Children have some cool stratagems for charging. World Eaters have some cool stratagems. It still hasn't been FAQ'd, so can you move a unit all the way across the board for like 5 CP?
Creatures of Bile have some really cool stuff. Obliterators are still good. Yeah. Like, you can go to the casino and play Obliterators as long as you want. They're never going to roll all 7s. It's not going to happen. I have them like Pack Minus, better than Chaos Knights, but worse than everything Space Marines. In Soup, I think they are justifiably in Pack Plus because the Emperor's Children toolbox is really great with whatever the fuck you want to run it with. They're fine. But everything you can do with Soup with Chaos Space Marines is better than what you can do with Pure. They're still better than Imperial Fists.
You reckon?
Oh hell yeah!
They don't have doctrines though.
I don't care. I don't.
Oh, that's all the Imperial Fists have now. It's just we've got an extra AP sometimes.
Yeah, but it's like great. But,
guys, we can fit in.
But like I would happily run if I had to run Chaos Space Marines. I would run like the Creation to Bile 60 Possessed list that had like an advance and charge them and warp time them, and that's still fine. It's still better than anything Imperial Fists are doing. Sure. And what are Imperial Fists doing? They're standing there and remembering 8th edition. That's it. That's all Imperial Fists have.
Yeah, exactly. Because Chaos Space Marines became like more consistent cycles with Word Bearers as well. When you see those,
the Word Bearer stratagem is
just
incredible.
became more reliable warp time than Thousand Suns. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we can just put Thousand Suns below Imperial Fists.
Army, they're really good.
Yeah, remember Thousand Suns? Now that this Games Workshop.
They just suffer so much. You got like Magnus, who's awesome, and he's really good at what he does. But he's just like you said about Death Guard. When you've got like Magnus and Thousand Suns, your anti-tank goes into Magnus, everything else goes into the Thousand Suns, and then the rest of it's just too expensive. And it doesn't do anything.
Scarab Occults are one squad of Scarab Occults is fine, but I mean, it's the same thing with demons, where the first 1,000 points is fine, the second 1,000 points is terrible. In Soup, they're fine. They're not one of the better options in Soup at the moment because War Bearers does it better, although Magnus is still powerful.
Yeah,
I can't think of a reason I would play Thousand Suns pure. Especially with 1 wound rubrics. If rubrics had 2 wounds and were like 5 points more expensive, I'd be all over this book, like a tramp on chips. But here, no thanks.
Yeah, their ability for like +1 save and stuff like that against 1 damage is really good, and when you get that when they've got 2 wounds, it's going to be like really, really good.
Yeah, even stuff like the reality manipulation power, where you can pick a terrain piece and then you do it within 3 of that to half its movement, and then you can stack that with Doombolt. But they're all Soup tools, right? You try stacking that with Ferryman from Death from Mortarion to 8th something's movement. Yeah. That's way better than playing it in Soup. So go and do that instead. Playing it in Soup, go do that instead.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're worse than Imperial Fists.
You just pay too much tax
because
and stuff.
Yeah, they're not good.
Yeah.
It's a shame though, because Thousands are so good, especially and also the smite changes in 9th edition. Their smite increases in cost now, so you can't even spam
that really hit hard.
Because that was all the damage output.
Yeah, they're just everything in the book. Yeah, outside the characters, everything just seems too expensive. What it does, it just doesn't seem to do anything.
Remember when Zangor were a scary thing that you could get charged with as a Space Marine army? And now, like, Zangor charge your intercessors and die, right?
You kill maybe 1 with 30.
Yeah, it's like the same thing with G-Stealers.
Cool.
You've charged a dude and you're dead, and now you failed your morale check and I'm not wrapped anymore. Thanks for that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so finally to Xenos, the factions that everyone cares about.
Let's start filling in this bottom half.
I feel like we're about to fill it up. So Eldar Soup. This is going to include Ynnari because Ynnari are just
not
dead
a real
now,
army. Yeah.
basically. Yeah, you just got some characters that you might throw in once upon a time, but that's it. So where would you put Eldar Soup? What does it look like?
It's like bottom of pack plus for me, or bottom of pack for me. Sorry, it's like the best of Harlequins with some Craft World shooting is kind of where this lands at the moment, and I just don't think that's better than pure Harlequins. The Craft World shooting is just not efficient enough. You play on any board with woods, and you're just weeping silent tears into your like I Heart Craft Worlds and your 5th edition codex.
Yeah, the irony that Eldar hate minuses.
-1 to hit on something. God, how can anybody deal with this?
No, please, God.
There's woods in the
Not
way.
like we were rocking -6 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's like them and Alpha just crying into the corner with -4 to hit. Like, but it's so unfair.
Exactly. Yeah. I would still complain about chapter masters.
No sympathy for Eldar. Yeah, I don't get why I don't get what Eldar Soup does better than Quinn's right now. Other than like the only thing I'm going to say is I'm not including putting like a Vect attachment in Harlequins in that because that's not really Harlequins in Dark Eldar Soup, and I've not even seen that done, so it clearly can't be that good. No. So yeah, that's Eldar Soup.
Especially because you need to have the models on the board, don't you know? To use
exactly. And if you've got like an Archon and five guys, they're just going to die. Or that Archon's going to get wrapped and you're going to be really upset. It's like, I can't kill him, I guess I'll just hug him. Yeah. Cool, cheers guys, no fusion pistols for you.
So speaking of Drakari, so we'll get these in now. Obviously, these guys are getting a book in 18 days. It's going on pre-order. But currently, they just seem like they're just falling out of favour. They're slowly falling further and further down.
Yeah.
But Talos spam used to be a thing, and now they just... Obviously, Scary still loves them.
If you're Scary, the pack, if you're not the pack minus, is kind of where I'm at. Just below Fists.
Below Fists? You think they're worse than Imperial Fists?
Yeah,
I don't think they're worse than Imperial Fists.
Okay, fine.
Because I think they've got speed.
Yeah, that's fair. They're pretty good at the missions. They're probably better than Chaos Space Marines as well, actually.
Yeah, I think that's what they've got at the minute. They've got speed.
They've got speed. They've got MSU.
Still running Talos.
They're real good at scramblers.
Real good at scramblers.
Like, you got Urgals, mate. You're not stopping Urgals scrambling. Even Tom Layton won't stop you scrambling.
Really well. They just don't do much else. They've got some good shooting units. They've got the Forge World version of the Ravager. Ravagers are a little bit expensive at the minute.
Yeah,
What's
they've got
it
the
called
Reaper.
now?
Void Raven bombers are still okay,
Reaper, that's
but
it.
they're 1 use only on their bombs now, or they always have been. But
Yeah,
every other bomber in the
exactly.
game is like 4 use or 5 use.
So what Drakari basically have is just like Venoms to just be able to play engage in all fronts, and then they can obviously scramble as well. So they seem to play the secondaries that they have quite well.
Yep.
They just don't do a whole lot of killing with the Reapers. Reapers being the only good shooting they've got, and it's really random.
Their basic,
If it spikes, it's amazing. If it whiffs, it whiffs.
their basic game plan is primary denial and score secondaries, and hope that you can't stop them scoring primary as well, and don't win on the last couple of turns. If they go second, they're loving it. If they go first, they hate life because you just score 15 primary in the last turn against them every time because they've killed none of your army.
Yeah, for sure.
The only thing I would say is they have a positive matchup into Sisters, which is surprising, just because there's nothing worth shooting at for the Sisters player, and Reaver Jetbikes are quite good at giving Sisters the runaround. But other than that, I just don't love them.
Yeah, for sure.
They're just, I mean, it doesn't matter. They've got a book in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they go after the book comes out. Will they shoot straight to S tier? Will they get transhuman on everything? Who knows?
3 up pinball army
They
wide.
get transhuman and re-rolling wounds in combat.
Racks are 7 points, 20 models, and they come back anywhere with Black Cornucopians now. Oh yeah, this is obviously as well assuming that you can't do 20-man rack squads, because that's not a thing, guys. Stop trying. If you can do 20-man rack squads,
FAQ that came out.
no, the data sheet still says they can't go past 10, so it doesn't matter what the points book says.
Yeah, and then the points book says it's 5 to 20. And
Yeah, so if you're playing them as 20, then you're probably getting run over by like 60 rack armies right now, and I'm really sorry for that your friends can't read or are playing that. That's all I've got.
Okay, so that's Rukari. So got those out of the way. Tyranids.
And you can leave them there. They're my army, so I'm going to put them in F tier. You have to put your own army in F tier so you feel better when you're winning with them.
I think so, yeah. I think that's how it
So
works.
what's
I don't think
your
they shoot much
perspective on
higher.
this?
I'm still playing, because I don't want to go out and buy a whole new Tyranid army. I'm still playing Gene Stealer Spam.
Oh,
Sorry.
I'm so sorry. That's
with
F tier.
Yeah.
That is
and then
solidly
using a
F
couple
tier.
of Hive Guard. If you got a couple of Hive Guard in there, and they do all right. Now they do have a lot of other options. They've got if you wanted to just spam shooting and run like 18 Hive Guard and the 3 Exocrines list, not too bad.
Still
They've
pretty
got
bad.
It's okay. It's decent shooting. You just don't do anything else. The Forge World. What's the Forge World thing?
The
Is it called? That went down to, like
Macaron.
200 points. Yeah,
And the
200 points for an
Hero
Imperial
Duels.
Knight in Tyranids.
Yeah. So Tyranids are probably Pact Plus and probably towards the top of it. I actually have them above Blood Angels.
Wow. Okay. Really high.
Did you know that Tyranids have one of the best matchups in the game into White Scars, and White Scars basically can't win it unless they get lucky. They have play into Sisters. They have play into Dark Angels. There is Hive Guard are one of the best units in the game, and they finally have a shell. They finally have a shell that works in something that looks like the Swarm Lord, a Hive Tyrant with wings, and 2 Macarons, and then like 1,000 points of score, or like 600 points of scoring. Macarons are so take a Gene Stealer, make it 4 inches faster, and then make it a Harlequin and a Tyrannosaurus Rex, and then make it and then make it 1 attack less than Mortarian in combat, and that's a Macaron. And then it also does mortal sometimes.
Yeah,
it gets
the
a 5
Forge
up on
stuff.
It's insane. The Macaron single-handedly makes Tyrant the Pact Plus book. They are incredible. And if your friends don't have the Macarons, they're F tier.
Yeah. So the Forge World update for Tyranids is really good. Yeah, I was about to say Codex alone.
Codex alone,
they
they're terrible. There's
bottom tier,
nothing really
but
going for
the
them.
Forge World stuff was really kind.
I think looking at this, I might bump Ultramarines and Space Wolves down a tier just because that Pact Plus is looking hefty. just to balance it out.
down here.
Yeah, just because it's looking like everything's really good and nothing's bad, right? We'll do this for internal consistency.
So speaking of F tier, we got
Orcs a pack.
You reckon Orcs are
Orcs a pack. Come on, the 180 Goss build is not bad enough to put in pack minus. There's nobody's playing it because nobody has the time. But that book is like better than that book's better than Imperial Knights.
You can't highlight all in a real game.
That book is solid.
But that's what you have to remember.
Smashing Guns are still great. Smashing Guns are still great.
Yeah.
180 Orc Boys is an incredible list. It's just soul destroying to play, and anybody who's got it needs a back brace. But that book is fine. There's nothing wrong with playing Orcs at the moment. Just don't expect to like smash everybody, but don't expect to be losing games. Don't expect like you have play in most games. It's basically Orcs, and nobody's playing Horde Killing at the moment.
Yeah, for sure.
Horde Killing is not a thing right now. So
no, exactly. Because it's not up here.
yeah, pretty much.
This is all except this is pretty much all elite on monsters, you know.
Yeah, like
down here you start getting hordes.
Yeah, power armor's up the top, right? So
yeah, exactly. So the reason I said monsters is purely because it's Tyranids.
Oh, and Tyranid Suit exists. Don't play it.
No,
it's like the same tier. It's like
need
slightly worse than Tyranid Pure is pretty much where it's at. So don't worry about it. Don't think about it, guys. You're just spending CP on worse scoring.
So Tau Empire.
Yay!
There they are.
There we go.
I'm leaving
Yeah,
them
we don't need to move that.
We finally got F tier. It's a momentous day for all.
The comparison from which all else is drawn.
They're just a Powerball army, you know. They just stay together. They just castle up, and that doesn't win the game at all. And then the shooting is very lackluster.
They got some nice buffs in the
broadsides.
updated Minotaur Field Manual. So broadsides went down in points, and Devilfish as well. Devilfish are okay. Broadsides are okay. The problem is that they don't do anything better than any other shooting army does. And if you're planning for like AdMech shooting or White Scars like Scepters. White Scars and Scepters do more damage than the squad of broadsides does for half the points. It's just kind of sad. And then terrain is really bad for them.
Yeah, they get that one turn. Yeah, they get the one turn where they re-roll in hits, and then they see something they really want to kill, but most of the time they're just popping.
And Koyon did get updated to be full rerolls to hit, not reroll failed hits. So it's slightly better. They can actually punch through modifiers now. But stuff like the Farsight Enclave build that existed at the end of 8th edition with the 6 commanders that used to start with 18 CP now starts with 8 if it does that before it spends on relics. It's just not enough. The tools they had that were good needed CP to run, and now they don't work, and their scoring is just not resilient enough.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the gist.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why they're in FT, as you mentioned at the start. They just don't play the missions anymore. They just don't work in the game. The game's different to when these guys
I'm playing them in my next TTS league because I want a challenge and to not win it, so because I'm running it as well. So I have to sandbag a little bit. So
fair.
I'm going to just mock anyone who loses to me relentlessly. That's the game plan.
So Craft Worlds now. I would probably put them low pack minus now. Again, used to be really good, banking on loads of minuses, but relying on planes. But now they can't spam planes anymore. They can't spam minuses anymore. They did get a nice update with was it Fire and Phage? You can get back into transports.
Yeah, but the problem with that is you then spend 500 points on a squad of Dark Reapers and a Wraith and a Wave Serpent, and that's not 500 points of shooting.
No, it's not.
I have them above 1,000 Suns. Above 1,000 Suns. They're probably just worse than a no army, no supplement marine army. So, which is horrible to say. No, I have no sympathy for Craft Worlds players. In team events, by the way, they are somewhere around pack to pack plus. The Seer Council build is quite good in team play, but if that's not a thing you're doing, don't worry about it.
Yeah, Seer Council's decent.
It's just not winning tournaments.
Yeah, Seer Council's fun. Exactly. It's just kiting and just spamming psychic powers really.
Yeah, pretty much. Don't play against Dark Angels with Watched.
So yeah, so final 3 we have GSC.
Yeah,
down they go.
You can move them to the left, but that's about it.
You reckon just a little bit better than Tau? I suppose they can play mission really well.
No, they can't. They're just still better than Tau. There is, as a Gene Circle player with a small car worth of acolytes in my garage right now. This hurts to say. I cannot think of a single reason to put GSC on the table right now. They don't hit hard. They don't survive. Their guns is just worse than guard guns. They're just not good. They're paying very heavily for the sins of 8th edition. In that they got nerfed like 6 times, and now there's a generic fallback and charge stratagem, or there's a generic fallback stratagem for everything that you were going to wrap, and then you're dead. And congratulations, thanks for bringing GSC.
I think what did you say on Twitter the other day? It was like you play GSC and use 3 times the brain power in one game and then lose anyway.
Yeah, it's you spend 3 times the mental energy on this game to only slightly lose it.
Yeah, exactly. I played them the other day, which is for a battle report, and it's just like I've got them all out. I was like, this is going to be so much fun. I actually played them against Craft Worlds because I was like, these are 2 bottom tier armies.
And the Craft Worlds rinsed you.
My God, it was bloody hard. I'm not going to say the result.
Yeah, it feels so bad. I played a game with the Goonhammer guys to do like a review of the new Maelstrom missions, and my opponent deployed Mortarion and 5 Vital Terminators, and I looked at it and I went, I can't actually physically damage those. I can't hurt them.
No.
So my Aberrants instead charged a generic Demon Prince and died to it.
Oh, mate.
I'm just there like,
they're just too. The Aberrants are just
my God.
So expensive.
10 Aberrants is now 340 points. For 340 points, I can take 6 Inceptors.
Yeah, exactly.
I can take 12 Vanguard Veterans in White Scars for the same points. Just don't do it to yourselves, guys.
They just. I don't know how you can help them. I don't know what you can do except for just make everything super cheap, but then you just run in even more models that die easily.
Sorry, let's just make Aberrants 5 points a model so that they're the same pounds price as they are points. And you can spend £2,000 on Aberrants and have a 2,000 point army. It lines up perfectly. Games Workshop is printing money.
That's the way.
Oh, God.
So yeah, G's of the Cults suck ass, basically. So we have Necrons, the latest and greatest Xenos faction. I'd put them at top of Pack Plus. I'd put them around there. Maybe less than Blood Angels. Not sure about Black Templars, but I think these are really, really good. Really, really good. And they're fun to play.
No, they didn't look great in the notebook when someone played them.
I don't know what you're talking about, mate.
No, I did see someone playing them on Twitter. Someone posted on Twitter that they were playing them, and I was like, is that a great idea? And history's not been kind to him when he's played Necrons. Yeah, I have them about there as well. The triple Catan list is really powerful. The Silent King Warriors build is fun. Good for anybody who's playing that. I really admire your courage. Everything else is terrible. But
Yeah, yeah.
The canoptic list
'Cause
exists.
they were just like-
but Triple Catan,
Yeah.
guys, go play Triple Catan. It's real
Yeah,
fun.
like,
Or Double
before-
Catan. Either's fine.
Yeah, like before this book came out, it's just like they just didn't know what they were doing. They had no, the army was just so bizarre because nothing was good. So everyone was just like spamming Doomsday arcs, and now the vehicles are relatively lackluster, but they're just warrior spamming is really fun. And then Triple Transcendent Catan is obviously just really hard to deal with because everyone's scared of one Catan when it's a Nightbringer, but bring 3, which are just as resilient. And you're just laughing really.
And do like I was doing the math yesterday on Discord, and it's like if you run 3 Catan, you can fairly consistently average 20 to 30 mortal wounds a turn into some armies.
Yeah.
Or you can do like pinpoint
Yeah,
accurate
sure.
10 to 20. But like
Yeah.
you do triple sky falling stars on most armies turn 1, they're taking like 20 mortal wounds just from that, and then you have the splash damage and active indicate
Yeah,
from
exactly.
Psychomancer. It is crippling. It can be very
Mhm.
powerful. Tesseract arcs from Forge World are also incredibly powerful. You should be looking into those if you're not already.
Yeah, really cheap as well.
200 points for a
Yeah.
4-up invulnerable save,
Yeah, exactly.
permanently transhuman. They have 2 Gauss cannons and a slightly worse las cannon each, or D6 shot las cannon each.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
You should be like that. That's the way to go.
Just
Because
resilience.
Arcs and
there,
Catan
so-
is the core of that book, and Scarabs. Scarabs are one of the best units in the game. You should be abusing them.
The only thing with Catan is that they are so strong, they put out so many mortal wounds, and not many armies can actually kill one a turn because of the
Yep.
max 3 wounds.
Especially if you're screening them out from smites like you should be.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. So if you're not running
Yeah.
Obsec and pregame move, you are a horrible person, and you should be doing that. Is the final thing. That's the only thing in there. Novok's not good. Get over it.
You don't rank Novak with Silent King?
No, because what happens when the Silent King deploys against an army that's planning to kill Mortari in turn 1?
He hides behind a wall.
Great, and then he stays behind that wall, and you lose the game. That sounds fun too.
Yeah, but he's providing the rerolls. That's the other bit that he's there for. He's cool at shooting, but he just gives everything rerolls hits in shooting,
Yeah, but
and then
I'm
wins in
not
combat.
sca-
And you can
I'm
tail
not
twist.
scared of that. It's not hard to kill 20 warriors in a go if you're building for it, which you should be.
You should be, yeah.
Like you get charged by 5 Death Stride, and they can kill 2 squads by themselves with 1 squad.
Very true.
And it's like, okay, I have 37 attacks. Like I have 42 attacks that hit on 2s and wound on 2s. You get a 6. You get a 5-up
Yeah,
save,
reroll it.
and then I'm doing mortals on 6s to wound. Take that squad, and then I'll flame and charge the other one with another squad. Take that off too. Cool. You've got the Silent King that's
Fair.
doing nothing.
Yeah.
And that other squad of warriors that's not got an invul. Great. Let's go. I don't get what that does into competent players. Assuming they're playing aggressively. If you're playing against somebody who's just going to sit back and let you do whatever you want on objectives, the Silent King build looks great. But if you're playing against somebody who's actually aggressively pressuring you, it just doesn't stand up. Warriors just aren't resilient enough. Even 20 warriors with a 5 invul. People can and do build to kill that. Like Vanguard veterans go through them. It's just not.
And that's why they don't sit in S tier, right?
Yeah, exactly. You can still play that build. It's still probably pack plus. It dumps on a lot of stuff, but it's not beating those lists in the top 10.
Yeah. Okay, final army. We got Harlequins. Probably one of the hardest armies to play, I imagine.
Probably the hardest army. They're probably harder than White Scars. Yeah, S tier or top of pack plus. I think you
Say
can
they're
argue.
better
S
than
tier.
White Scars.
No, they're harder to play than White Scars. Yeah, I have them pretty much exactly where you got them. You could probably argue top of pack plus, but
Yeah.
They have the 8th edition Gene Stealer cult effect. They're really hard to play. They have an incredible amount of tools that just dumpster people if you're not expecting them. Like your opponent falls back and then you 6-inch consolidate into their army, and then none of it can fall back anymore, and you stop it doing anything that turn.
Yeah.
You fall back into a transport or towards a transport and then double fight into something else for free, or to not get hit back. They just have an incredible amount of tools.
Yeah.
The Shadow Seer is incredible into most armies. Just -6 range, -1 to wound on everything. Bikes are incredible. They did lose some viability with the
really, really
Twilight Pathways change that you can no longer advance as part of that move, which means you can't have 2 squads on 3-up invul anymore. You can only have 1.
Yeah.
So that did hurt, and that's why I don't think they're higher in S tier anymore. I would have probably had them above Chaos Suit beforehand, but now I don't think so. But the thing with it is that even if you know every single trick that army has, it doesn't really matter because some of it's still good against you. You can plan for it, great, but you can't plan for everything, or you're giving up so much positional power to do that, that even when you know what they do, and even if you're playing against a really good player as a Harlequins player, as long as you're a good Harlequins player too, you'll know what tricks you need to use in situations, and that will carry you over the line. And they're just so powerful and so fast.
exactly.
I think the biggest issue they have is poorer matchups into some of the rest of S tier. Like Chaos Soup, I think is pretty bad for them, and I think White Scars is pretty bad for them. But they can still win those games. It's not a lost cause, which is what I think keeps them in S tier for me.
Yeah, for sure. They just got that play level ceiling that's going to really you're going to really struggle to get to, because you're just going to keep getting smashed in the face until you're over that line, until you're actually good enough with them. Because they do, again, if you misplay them, they just die. There's a couple of units that'll survive because of the invuln, but if you misplay them, they just fall over usually.
Yeah, absolutely. And don't play Admech. It's not fun.
Yeah, don't park your army in front of 6 robots.
Or 4, or any amount.
Oh, 1 robot even. And I think that is it. That's all of the armies.
Yeah, that is.
So-
Gallowpox Infected, Inquisition, Assassins, and Eliciting Starstriders are all in F tier as well, in case you're trying to run them pure.
Yeah.
Don't.
So I'm quite happy with those results. I don't see anything that's a miss.
And I feel really sorry for you if you play any of the bottom armies, because they're just not good.
Well, yeah, if that's your only army, I'm really sorry. If you have to keep dragging out your Genie Stealer cults, they cost you probably like 800 quid.
I spent a small kidney on Gene Stealer cults, and god damn it, I'm playing them. If that's where you are, my deepest apologies.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it is quite funny though, because there's a lot of people who moan about like, oh, Games Workshop only care about Space Marines, and then if you exclude Imperial Fist, like just Space Marines are just the top half.
Yeah,
and pretty much, as you said at the beginning, the competitive meta is Space Marine.
it's like Space Marines and Sisters. When we get back to real events, Space Marines and Sisters is what you're going to see, and Death Guard probably.
Wow, you made it! I'm so thankful. Thank you so much for making it this far. And what you're probably asking is, Mikey, that was only yours and Innis' opinion and no one else's. Well, you're right, it was. However, let's compare it to the community result. Wow, look at that. What did you... Were you expecting that? And the difference in opinion could be a lot of things. Myself and Innis play more competitive games, and people might come from a more casual setting who are able to vote as well. Or it could just be that we're the wrong and the community's right. I don't know. You'll have to let me know down in the comments. So I'm going to go now. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter and also Innis, because he's an absolute legend. So thanks to him for coming on the video. Thank you to you guys for making it all the way to the end. If you haven't already, you've watched me for an hour, so maybe you'll like another video. So go check out another one or subscribe so you're ready for the new one. And that's it. That's all I got. So have a great day. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye now.